One of the housekeeping rules, that's incredibly loud, yeah. One of the housekeeping rules is we are trying to live stream these meetings, and the sound only goes into the system if your red light is on, so just keep that in mind. But this is, hello, Mr. Newton. Hey, good morning to you, sir. Perfect time.
Okay.
It is. This group was commissioned by the Board of Commissioners. Every one of you applied, and we're grateful for that. The goal is really to help build towards the 2027 revaluation that has already at a staff level kicked off, but will conclude on January the 1st, 2027. Today's meeting is largely more about helping set the foundation for what this task force will be asked to work on and consider, but ultimately it will be making recommendations to the Board of Commissioners as they build towards that assessed value day. And so we'll try to use these meetings monthly. You all will adopt your own meeting schedule. We have a proposed meeting schedule in front of you, a proposed agenda in front of you that you'll be asked to adopt in just a moment. But before we started any of that, I thought it'd be helpful if we just did some quick introductions. We tried to, as we were creating this task force, we tried to build the membership based on folks who had varying levels of kind of construction or insurance or real estate, but expertise in the market. Because as we all know, when you use the word setting market values, if you have 10 people, they may give you 10 different responses for what that means. And ultimately, that's what this revaluation process is trying to accomplish, is to establish what baseline market is and adjust tax values to that. So if it's okay with you all, we'll kind of do some introductions both at a board level and at a staff level. John's asked some of his folks to be here. I thought that it would be good for you all to see who's in the field doing the work that's ultimately going to be reported to you all each month. We'll try to move through that quickly. We'll start, if it's okay with staff, and then you all can go after that. So I'm Brian, I'm the manager here in Burke. Been here for about 3 years, and prior to that I worked in Cleveland County for about 10 years, and then about 10 years before that in public accounting. So this is the first time that I've seen this type of task force be created for a revaluation process, and I'm super excited to be a small part of it. So then we'll go to John and the rest of the team.
Thank you, Mr. Epley. John Bridgers. I've been here going on 4 years, but I have started in county government tax office in 1993, so I've got over 30 years of tax experience, and so I'm very glad to be here in Burke County. I like Burke County. Worked in Polk County for a while and lived in Moxville. We passed through here on Interstate 40 and get off on 64 down to Ruffton. And so I'm very comfortable here. But I would like to introduce my staff. Senior staff I've got is Don Hutchins is our deputy tax collector.
Don, I gave them the microphone. If you'd like to do it themselves.
Well,
if you'd like to, anybody's fine.
I'm Dawn Hutchins. I am the Deputy Tax Collector, and I have been with the county going on 25 years.
Linda Wilbur. I'm the Property Listings Supervisor. I've been here about 27 years.
I'm Namrita Nelson. I am the Valuation Manager, and I've been with Burke for about 3 years, but I've worked in property tax for about 12. I worked in Cook County in Illinois before this. I'm not sure it's a good thing to say.
Amanda Conley, I'm the real property specialist, more admin. I've been here for 13 years.
I'm Kendra McGee. I'm the senior appraisal technician. I handle the present use value program, and I've been here almost 8 years.
My name's Hugh Sando. I work with Brian Epley. I'm the strategy and performance manager for Burke County, and I've been with Burke County for 3 years.
Alan Tony, I've been here for 3 years, and I'm a tax appraiser. I am Alex Tony. I've been here about 10, 11 months, and I am a real property appraiser.
I'm Travis Reap. I'm a property appraiser. I've been here about 2.5 years.
I'm Samantha Powell. I've been here for about 5 years, and I'm a real estate appraiser.
I am Tyrone Haas. I am a real property appraiser, and I've been here 9 years.
You want me to hit this button? My name's Jared Norval. I've been here all my life. I got my real estate, I'm a commercial real estate developer. I got my real estate license in 1965, so I've been here a while. So.
My name is Evan Crawley. I'm on the Soil and Water Board here in Burke County. I'm the vice chairman of that, but I'm also the director of Soil and Water in Lincoln County, that's what I do every day. But either way, that's what we're more but less the agricultural farmland protection and conservation.
I'm Kevin Ferris of Ferris Insurance. I've been 45 years in the insurance business. When I started with Dad, the biggest thing I bring to this, I've been on the E&R board, the Equalization and Review Board, for about 10 plus years, I believe, back Danny Eisenhower days. So hopefully I bring a little bit of information on that subject.
Good morning, I'm Tony Carswell, and I'm the former Burke County Commissioner and Chairman of the Board. Also the past president of the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. I also sit on the North Carolina Rural Infrastructure Authority, as well as the Morgan Board of Adjustment. I just wanted to, personal privilege to welcome John and his group. That's a lot of years of great work over there.
I feel like a fish out of water. My name is Tim Newton. I'm a local real estate agent 2 doors down with Coldwell Banker from Hickory, but have been here for going on 40 years in real estate. We sell commercial, residential. I also, me and another guy own the Lake James Marina, and I guess take a moment to thank Brian for, after Helene, we all have stories we could tell, but especially there at the marina, and my youngest son's house was destroyed in the flood, and our marina was destroyed in a flood. So I appreciate the county and Brian specifically for helping us, and I'm looking forward to learning, being on this board.
Even I forget to mash the button. So 2 takeaways from that. One, I think tremendous amount of experience in our professional staff, and I hope that helps demonstrate some credibility. They've already been working really hard on getting the foundation set for the 2027 revaluation. But I also hope that as we were going around, and as I mentioned before we started, there's 2 additional seats that may be filled by the next time this group meets. From a general contractor's perspective, we have 2 members of the Home Builders Association that I'm optimistic are going to join this group. But whether you're buying and selling, developing commercial, looking at the present use and agricultural side, or covering the risk management side, I think all of those perspectives blend well to establish what true market value is. And again, that's our goal. You have a proposed agenda in front of you. It is very simple and straightforward. Our goal is that this is a true working group, not overly formal, but each month we will propose an agenda that you can adopt or you can modify, totally up to this group. But I'll give you just a moment to look over that, if you will, and once you're comfortable with it as it is, or if you would like changes, I'll entertain a motion to accept that. And I'll say briefly, next we'll adopt your rules of procedure, which are also attached in your packet. I think were emailed to you ahead of time. They are very simple. I'll talk about those in just a moment. And following that, once we have actual rules in place, we can allow you guys to consider nominating a chairperson, and I will turn it over to that person moving forward. So once you're prepared, I'll take a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second. All in favor? Okay, so we have an agenda. Item 3 is consideration of your rules of procedure. Again, just getting some of this housekeeping material out of the way. These are very simple. The rules establish what a quorum is, which is a simple majority for this group. It talks about how you may make a motion, amend a motion. It talks about basic Robert Rules of Procedure, which is what we would follow here. So happy to answer any questions you guys may have on that. And if there are no questions, when you're ready, consider a motion to either adopt or amend these proposed rules.
Mr. Manager, let's look under 6A and 6D for quorums. We got quorum listed twice. Can you give me a clarification? Is there something I'm missing on that?
6A says a majority of the membership constitute a quorum, and every act done or made by a majority of the members present at building meetings shall be regarded as an act. So that's just giving you the ability to make a motion and act.
Okay.
And I think item D says shall consist of a simple majority of the authorized membership of the committee. The authorized membership shall not include vacant positions or members who are disqualifying. So item D says that even though the task force has 7 members, you don't count the 2 that aren't appointed yet. So I think that's calculation of membership and quorum, a little bit different than the decision-making item in A.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
No problem. So are you considered a member?
No, sir.
Okay, so it's just
Today we have 5. Yeah.
5 or 6? Or
John is not a member either. Yeah, we are the staff supporting the board.
Okay.
Motion to approve that.
Motion, second?
Second.
All in favor? Very good. So the next item is election of officers.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion.
Yes, sir, please do.
Johnny Carson to be our chairman.
So motion for Johnny. Any other nominations? All in favor? Very good. Mr. Chairman, here's your notes, and I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to the nominations for the vice chair. I'll open the floor for nominations for vice chair. All vote speak at one time. Nominations for secretary.
I will point out, Mr. Chairman, if the board's okay with it, Ms. Emma from our office is prepared to take minutes and be your secretary if the board's comfortable with that.
I think this board is more than welcome. Go ahead and vote on that.
I think the last attachment in your, on the very back, actually, if you flip all the way over to the back, very simple proposed meeting schedule. It maintains the cadence that we started today with the first Tuesday of every month at 9 a.m. Again, just a proposal, whatever's most convenient for this group. And you can, meeting to meeting, change it. So if you have a February meeting and decide you don't need a March meeting, you could cancel it at that time. But this is just a proposed schedule. I can confirm that this meeting room is available for all of these dates and the staff is prepared, but happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will stand, it's okay. So really, again, today's kickoff meeting was largely about getting some of these administrative components completed, getting the structure of the board set up, and then to talk about our goals and purpose. And I think most simply, I think what I would like to take an opportunity to discuss is, and if it's okay with you all, I think items B and C really can be combined. But what I'm holding is the 2023 schedule of values. And what the most simple goal that this board will have is making recommendations to the Board of Commissioners that build this book. I think it's important to understand that unlike single property appraisal, where if I was going to sell my house and I hire an appraiser to come in and value and build comps on my single unit, revaluation is an attempt at mass reappraisal that's largely based on statistical sampling. So what I mean by that is this book is built as a series of tables and data points, everything from unimproved land values to like, for example, price per acre based on compartments of the county, to depreciation schedules, to price per square foot for a home with certain adjustment factors based on finishings or exterior type, such as vinyl versus masonry, those other type things. So I say all that to say the real work for a countywide reappraisal process is taking incremental steps of setting these statistical tables and then taking that and applying it to the data of a piece of property, right? So if you have a 1,500 square foot house that was built in 1975 with an attached carport on an acre of land in a certain part of the county, you could look all of those components up in the schedule of values to dictate the appraised value, which is a little bit different than what some people hear or think when they think about appraisal, right? So that is the simple goal. If someone said, what is the function and purpose of this board, and why are we bringing together this these perspectives of professional expertise to try to create that and try to endorse it? It's really to build this book. It's to make sure that probably every 3 to 4 months on the county commissioner's agenda, and they just met yesterday, and they meet the first and third Mondays. Every 3 or 4 meetings that they have, you all will have had monthly meetings in between, and we'll take them a different component with hopefully your endorsement and input on this is what our present use value should be, this is what our unimproved land value per acre should be, this is what our baseline square footage cost should be, with adjustments for different components that may dictate that. But in doing that, I hope that we're able to create a level of trust in the community and advocacy and transparency in how the values are being built, so that when we get to January 127 and following that, the notice of values go out to our community, and there's not a where did this come from, how did you calculate this mindset. That's ultimately what we are trying to accomplish. So I'm happy to pause there and answer any questions that you may have. If not, I'll jump into just a little bit of foundational information that I think will help set the course for the information that you all are going to be presented. And we're happy to cover, I would say this, Mr. Chairman, we're happy to cover from a staff level anything this group wants to hear and consider month to month. But we've already been building out a schedule for what will be presented on a month-to-month basis for you all to consider. So really, and I'll say this, you always start with land, right? Because a house, the cost of a house, regardless of where you build it, largely costs the same. 2x4 costs the same, OSB costs the same, HVAC costs the same. But depending on the community, the neighborhood, land prices vary, right? So that's one of the biggest differentiations between mass reappraisal. So we'll likely start with land values, trying to set those based on, we have about 1,000 different, what we call neighborhoods in Burke County. So those are kind of submarkets, and each of those submarkets may have varying price per acre values, and that'll be where we start building these schedule of values, and then we'll just kind of compound and incrementally advance it from there month after month. Does that make sense?
In commercial property, land value is not, is a factor, but cap rates are really
Correct.
determine the value based on the lease.
Yeah. So commercial will be done totally separately. Yes, we'll have a dedicated session just to commercial. I mean, there'll still be components that are statistically representative as how you calculate the value. And it's not all, when our folks are doing commercial appraisals, there's several different methods that you can use depending on the type of business, how large it is, those types of things. Cap rate, if they're in a lease, is certainly a component of that. But I guess certainly on the residential side, which is the bulk of the work, that's where we'll start. Okay.
Is this a task force, is this new for Burke County?
Yes, yes. Never been done before. Okay. Our board of commissioners, have really prioritized trying to look for innovative ways to integrate with the community and be more, be as, I don't want to use the word transparent to suggest Burke County hasn't been transparent, because I think that they've been, this organization has been overly transparent. We've always live streamed meetings, and I think it's always been a priority, but we've still been challenged at a staff level to look for ways to further that cause and to engage with our community. We just finished our first ever Citizens Academy 2 weeks ago. That was a 6-week program. We had 20 folks who went through. That's an example. This is an example. It's the first time that we've done it, and I hope, I think it's a good tool to make sure that, staff has the ability to really partner with folks who are not elected, to then recommend schedule of values that dictate market values to our board.
I don't know how many, over the years, I don't have fingers and toes for the number of people that I have had call me that I've either sold a property for or home to or whatever, and right after we go through a reevaluation, do you know what the county's got my property at now? Do you think it's, and I'm like, I don't know how that, so I'm glad to be a part of this. How did it go from here to here, or here to here, whatever? I'm sure Kevin's probably the same.
Yeah.
From the insurance side. I'm having to increase my escrow payment to cover the insurance increase.
And in each of those situations, so when we have about total, there's a tremendous number of, and if you break it down between improved and unimproved, but just say 37,000 improved parcels, about more than 50,000 total parcels that require a value. And you just met our team, right? So we're not actually going out there and pulling comps and touching every one. So it is this idea of configuring the county in this attempt to do mass reappraisals, which is why we have an informal appeals process after the notice of values go out. And most of those can be handled at a staff level, because at times there's nuances that we're not aware of. But ultimately they can go all the way to the Board of E&R. But generally, when someone asks me, how did you set the tax value, I ask I think a rhetorical question that's appropriate, and that's, well, what is, if you had to replace this asset, what would be the replacement cost from a risk management perspective? Or if you were going to sell it today, what would be the minimum that you'd be willing to accept? And that's an arm's length market-based transaction, or a replacement cost from a risk management component. And if you think that the tax assessed value is in line with either of those, then it's probably pretty close. If you think that you could replace it for cheaper or more, or if you think that you would sell it for less or more, then we probably have a fair discussion. But generally speaking, either replacement cost or market are going to get you pretty close. And I would tell you that the data suggests, and we'll look at that in just a moment, typically municipal tax values lag significantly behind replacement and market, significantly. And that's true here in Burke County too.
I'd agree.
I think one of the things we need to do is, like you said, it's not let's go back. It's about enhancing what we've already done. John and his group have done a tremendous amount of work, and we need to let the people in the county know some of the definitions that are, some that are, these people are not aware of. Arm's length, and we talk about arm's length all day long. A lot of people don't know what that arm's length transaction is. So I think it's incumbent upon this committee to make sure that people understand where we're coming from and what a true goal is for reappraisal, for uniformity and fairness in that. And there's a lot of outside influences. We need to let folks in the county know these influences from outside we can't control a lot of times. So we have to look at the market for what it is here in Burke County as we are growing.
Yes, sir. So I'm going to bounce through this really quickly to Chairman Carswell's point. A lot of definitional type stuff, a lot of why are we even doing this questions that I hope that I'll try my very best to answer. And I've moved to item C, if that's okay with you. So the first thing that I would say is, why are we doing this? At times, because we're a large organization, we're complex, we're all busy, we have regulatory and statutory deadlines and guidelines. Sometimes we just start doing stuff and we don't necessarily take the time to explain why we are doing these things, which creates a communication gap. And as Mr. Newton just said, even as a real estate professional or as an insurance professional, Mr. Ferris, you know, if you guys have been in this market and understand, you know, those industries and still maybe have a disconnect with how revaluation works, what's the mass population's answer, right? So, you know, to Johnny's point, we want to try to narrow this gap and tell people why we're doing this revaluation process. First thing that I would say is, unlike federal government, so there's 3 layers of government. I think this is important. Obviously, federal government states Trump, and Trump, you know, or state trumps local, meaning that both the federal government and state government, under this principle of federalism, have autonomy. The state General Assembly and Congress can make laws, right? At a local level, counties are created by the state. So if you look at Burke County government's charter, we literally were created as a political subdivision of the state of North Carolina, meaning we're not autonomous. 85–90% of what we do, every other county in North Carolina does it. And that's because the General Assembly, it's a state function being carried out by a county, right? So I think of it this way, and it's way oversimplified, but it's a good analogy. We're like a child of the state, right? They set the rules and tell us what to do, and our job is to carry that out. 90% of what we do. There are things that counties are authorized to do that you're not mandated, but the vast majority is mandated. And that's operating under this principle of federalism, which means, you know, federal and state governments are able to create their own allowable functions, okay? So, what is ad valorem taxation? What is that? And why do we choose it? Why do we choose it? The first thing, keep in mind that we are a political subdivision of the state, as I just said. Ad valorem is Latin, so when the word property tax is really an ad valorem tax, if you've seen that terminology before, and it's Latin and it means based on value, okay? And that means that inside the North Carolina Constitution and inside of the North Carolina Machinery Act, which is the statute that governs all taxation in North Carolina, which is mandated on counties by the state, we must use this ad valorem methodology. If the county commissioners of Burke County, North Carolina decided we don't want to do property tax anymore, that is not constitutional or legal. They must do it. And in Burke County, it's 55% of our total revenue. And it must be based on market-based values. And that is regulated by the North Carolina Department of Revenue. So the General Assembly at the legislative level creates the law. It's also a constitutional provision in Article 2. That is then facilitated through the Department of Revenue, who makes the regulatory environment for taxation. And then we follow those regs, right? So again, I've been asked many times in my career, property tax is unfair. You really never own the stuff you have. And that's true, because if you regress on property taxes, we have situations where people have owned a home for 100 years. And it is heartbreaking if they get to the point where they can't make their property tax payments. But the law provides no discretion that that's a mandated exercise. I think if you talk to prior county commissioners or existing county commissioners, there are other ways of taxation that they would think are more fair, that are less regressive. Lots of people think sales tax or a consumption-based tax is a more equal taxation method. That's not something that our elected officials or staff can choose. It is mandated by the state of North Carolina, okay? Here we're just talking about the reasons that it's mandated. The General Assembly has said that unlike consumption-based tax or other means of taxation, property tax is generally sustainable, and property values typically, last 5 years have challenged this, but typically not overly volatile, so it gives you a consistent revenue source so that we can do the things that we're mandated to do, like public schools, law enforcement, emergency services, and infrastructure. So let's talk quickly about reval. Reval is simply a process of repositioning tax value to market value, okay? And again, as I said, in North Carolina, this 105-286 is the Machinery Act statute, and it says every county in North Carolina must do it every 8 years. However, there's a recommendation from the Department of Revenue that you advance that to a more frequent cycle. In Burke County, we're on a 4-year cycle. And based on what we've seen in the last 4 or 5 years, there are times when you have to do that even more frequently because the market is changing so rapidly. Think about 2021 when a sheet of OSB was $35-40, right? In 2019, you could get a sheet of OSB for $6, and then 2 years later, it's $56. 700% increase because of supply chain. Well, if people are building and you got a sheet of roof and walls or replacement cost, the cost of construction just went through the roof. And market value, again, is largely based off arm's length transactions between a willing buyer and a willing seller or replacement cost. That's how it's set. So as material cost and labor cost increase, so does the market. I think that's important because when you think about real property, so when you look at our total tax base here in Burke County, we have 4 compartments of our tax base, right? So we got about $11 billion tax base here. The vast majority of it is real property. Real property is land or structures. So I like to think about it as if you take a structure and you turn it upside down and shake it, anything that falls out would be personal property. Anything that stays, the roof, the wall, the foundation, all real property, right? And then the land it sits on. That's kind of the way I think about it. Now, what's unique is both out of our 4 compartments, 3 of them are fluidly revaluated, right? So you don't have a revaluation for your vehicle. That's based on depreciation schedules and based on assessed values put out by those industry norms. But real property only changes during revaluation. So if you buy a home and it has in 2024, and our next reval is not until 2027, that tax value doesn't change. It's static. But constantly, every single day, there's people buying and selling homes and land that's changing the market. So that creates this gap. In a period of rising cost, the market's moving, the tax value is staying the same, and that prevents the equilibrium that we're looking for. And that's what triggers potentially even more frequent revaluation. You can see that here. That's what I'm saying. So what we want in North Carolina per the Constitution is tax values, market values to be balanced. When tax values don't change and market changes up or down, it becomes imbalanced. So think about 2009, 10, 11. Market values went through the floor. Tax value stayed the same. So it works both ways. There are times where tax value could exceed market values. That is rare. It's only happened once in my career. But there's an argument that you're overtaxing in that situation. And a reval may bring tax values down. And that's what we're showing here. So if you go back, this is a measure of what we call sales ratio. So the sales ratio is, and I'll define arm's length transaction in just a second to Chairman Carswell's point, but our sales ratio looks at every sale that goes through MLS system and ultimately through the Register of Deeds office and to the Department of Revenue, and they randomly select some of those to look at. And if I give you an example, if a home has a tax value of $10, but it sells for $20 between a willing buyer and a willing seller. That's a 50% ratio, right? Because the tax value was 50% of the new market value, which is what it sold for, right? So again, if 100% means that market value and tax value are the same, $10 house, $10 market value or tax value. Over time, again, if you think about market going up, then that sales ratio inversely decreases. So when we did our last reval in 2023, our sales ratio was 59%, meaning our tax values lagged the market by 41%. Does that make sense? So we would have a single wide mobile home on our books, or that's DMV, a single wide modular unit, for example, for $100,000, and it would sell for $159,000 regularly. And then when you do reval, you pull that back up. You adjust your values back to market. And then what's happened since January the 2nd, 2023, is we've seen this constant volatility and decline, erosion of that sales ratio. Does that make sense? So this is the single best predictive analytic for what reval will generate in Burke County. How far out of market we are. Does that make sense? Here's just some other telltale signs directly from our MLS data. Looking at average list price, and list price and sales price don't always mirror each other, but from March of 23, remember we did reval in January 1st of 2023, so from March of 23 to March of 24, just in Burke County, average list price went up 23.5%. Okay? And then from 24 to 25, another 6.5%, 7%. This is September to September, not March to March. But the point is, in the last 2 years, you've seen a 25+% increase in the average list price of a home in Burke County, which is leading to higher sales, which is when the tax value isn't changing, helps explain this trend, which is not unique to Burke. When you look at McDowell, Catawba, Cleveland, and Lincoln, each of them are experiencing a very similar market trend, which is sales prices are going up, list prices are going up, tax values are staying the same, and it's creating that gap. So quickly, market value is defined definitionally inside of the Machinery Act, and it says, number one, you have to be talking in terms of money, so we can't trade chickens. There's no way, we can't measure in that type of transaction. And it is the measure of, in terms of money, of a property transaction taking place between a willing buyer and a willing seller, meaning if it's an in-kind, or if it's an estate, or if it's I'm selling to my brother, sister, son, that at some type of discounted term, that doesn't qualify as market. And we make sure that we exclude those when we're defining what's called arm's length transactions. So to Johnny's point earlier, you have to pull those out because those will skew your data, right? So for example, this is our sales ratio that we've been collecting year over year. And in this sample, there's about 5,100 total sales. So I think we would all agree that's a large enough population to be statistically representative of the market in our community. Now, we're only measuring 4,700 of those because in this sample, about 400 are non-arm's length transactions, right? So out of 5,100 sales over a 3-year period, 4,700 of those met this definition of arm's length transaction. And inside of that, you can see that we're in this 77 percentile range. So we're, and different townships have differing medians, but generally you can see kind of how that works for the calculation. And every single one of those 4,700 sales is comparing what it sold for to what the tax value was from the January 1, 2023 revaluation process. I'll stop there just in case there's questions. So this gives us some expectation for what we expect to find as we build the schedule of values and apply it to our tax data for expected change.
And typically that, if you go back, typically that doesn't change between some of the communities. Some of the communities stay up there. For example, Silver Creek and in Icord. Some of those places are always, the transactions are higher. So the other guys, we have to make sure that they're fair market value because of these folks that are selling higher.
Yeah, that's right. And look at the sales count for somewhere like Iker or Morganton, compared to a Jones Ridge. Right, so you gotta consider that when you're setting your values as well. I put this slide here to say, some folks think, and I think it's a misconception, that revaluation is about adjusting the tax levy, creating more tax revenue, and that is not true. This committee is charged with helping set the schedule of values so that we can determine fair and equitable property value, and that's it. Property value can go up or down, but the tax and levy for the county is the product of a variable equation, because the taxing rate can also change. In 2023, when property values increased by 41%, the Board of Commissioners at that time reduced the property tax rate for county residents by 20%, 13.5 cents, from 69.5 to 56 cents. And that was within $1.20 per month for the average taxpayer of being completely revenue neutral. So now you got to think, there's many layers of taxation across the county. There's county taxes, there's municipal and township taxes, there's fire taxes. So there's other taxing authorities that impact real property taxation. But the average county taxpayer, just for county taxes, saw about $1.20 a month increase in property taxes. There were other folks who didn't change their rate, and that created some confusion. So I think one of the other things that we need to do a better job of is helping differentiate between those taxing entities across the county. This is the proposed timeline. So we're here in November. We have until December of 2026 for the Board of Commissioners to adopt this schedule of values, and then we'll apply this schedule of values to the taxing records. And when I say taxing records, I largely mean, think about it as a sketch. So, is it a vacant piece of property, or is there a house on it? Does it have a sunroom? Those details, those characteristics, if you will, of the asset. So each of these months that this team meets, we'll be presenting a different component, and again, compoundly and slowly building towards these value sets. Here I've put up, for example, what the next couple of meetings may look like, starting with sales ratio review and land values. As I said, land values typically always get set first because there's more uniformity in the structure component. But here's just a rough timeline of how we'll cover 14 townships and 1,000 neighborhoods. And to Mr. Norval's point, commercial property will have its own, but we'll slowly build that out to where we get the November, December 2026 schedule of values fully built and ready for consideration. So that was my attempt to help set the stage for what this board will consider and what you will help staff build, but also to help lay the framework of why we do revaluation, what we're trying to accomplish, and what the timeline may be. Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Brian?
You said real estate tax value is about 55%. Is it 55% of?
Total county revenue, yes, sir.
And what's sales tax?
About 20, 21. It fluctuates, as the total portfolio changes. But we've done a really good job. One of our board's goals is to look for alternative ways to fund government, diversify revenue streams. So there are permits and fees, there's sales and services, there's grant opportunities, there's things like, for example, EMS revenue. So we have, EMS is one of the few departments that we actually can bill for. And most of that bill, about 80% of that either goes to Medicare or some type of insurance. So it's not a direct impact on the citizen. And we brought that in-house 2 years ago. We started doing that in-house versus subbing it out. And by doing that, we eliminated about a $500,000 a year contract by paying a company. And this year, we grew our billed revenue from $4 million to $6.5 million. So that $2.5 million increase in revenue is about 2.5 cents on the property tax rate, meaning that we were able to fund government by taking pressure off of the property tax rate. That's one example. We call that budget reengineering, and that's one example of several that we've tried to lower our dependency on property tax. 3 years ago when I first got here, we were about 57% dependent on property tax. We're down to about 55. I think The best counties in North Carolina are somewhere in the 53 range, so we still got some work to do, but we're a lot better than we were.
These are what we're trying to do now. I forgot how to do that. So again, thank you for doing that. We've got a lot of good work ahead of us. There's a lot of material. Brian's going to be sending you a lot of material, but if you want to go on your own, there's a lot of material on the internet that you can go to. I would encourage you to go to Local Government Commission and read everything you can about LGC, and then state law requiring appraisals and reappraisals. So it'd be kind of nice if you could do that on your own. All right, I'm going to open the floor for comments from members. Mr. Norwell, any comments? No. Evan? No, sir. Okay, Mr. Ferris?
Nothing that I can add at this point.
Okay, Jim? All right. Well, we'll close that portion of the meeting, and so we know our next meeting date, which is December the 2nd, okay? So at 9:00 a.m. here in this building. All right, if there's nothing else, I will accept a motion to adjourn. So moved. And a second. All in favor? Aye? Aye. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.